I wanted to look at the Zelensky and Trump clash or the discussion that happened in the Oval Office, because I think when political figures get into heated discussions like that, you really start to see how communication happens, especially in heated moments. And it's really useful because they're all trained to mute their expressions and things like that. And it's good to be able to identify them to see what they're actually thinking and how this situation builds. Because I don't think Zelensky says one thing that makes then JD Vance get really frustrated. I think it's a slow build. And I actually think Zelensky over a long period of time in this interview is slowly but surely getting more and more frustrated with the situation that he's presented with. So we'll just start and I'll go through it.
This could have very well ended up in a third world war, and that would not have been a good situation. What was your second question?
My second question for President Zelensky: why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest. Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this country.
So you see the furrowing of the brow. So you can see clearly from this clip, from this still, that he's not happy. His brow is furrowed and his eyebrows pointed downwards slightly, which demonstrates anger. So he's already slipping really in terms of his tolerance for the question that's being asked. You also see his hands are in this position, but watch as the interview goes on, how this starts to change. He starts to get more and more, starts to wring his hands more and more, which demonstrates stress. So watch how he answers this question.
And you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see people. Do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting the dignity of his office.
I will wear a costume after this war.
So not only is he frustrated with question, he refers to the suit as costume. You also notice that he refers to himself. You can see this is it's a demonstration of him being accused of something. I would say because this is a reporter in this sense, you see Zelensky's expressions are much less muted when you compare them when Trump is talking or Vance is talking. They're much, much more honest and explicit. He demonstrates how unhappy he is with this. You can see it.
Finish?
Okay.
Yes, maybe
something
like yours. Yes, maybe something better. I don't know.
Yeah.
We will see. Maybe something cheaper.
You can see he's always dismissive in what he's saying because he's clearly very frustrated that this is an issue that's been raised, when I think in his mind, he's wearing what he's wearing because his country's at war and he wants the conversation to be focused on that.
Thank you.
President Trump. Thank you, President Trump. You said yesterday that you have...
Are you going to send more arms to Ukraine in case there's no peace?
Yeah, we're going to have arms to Ukraine. Yeah, sure. Hopefully I won't have to send very much because hopefully we're going to have it finished. We're looking.
So you see here, this move towards Trump, it's a shift in his seat. But he's also leaning in because you can clearly see that he is uncertain as to what Trump is actually going to say. I think this is where this press conference gets quite interesting, because I would imagine most of the time these conversations happen behind closed doors, whereas it seems to play out in front of the media. And I don't know whether that's intentional for anyone, but you can see that Zelensky is uncertain. Those past couple of seconds, he's not sure about what Trump is going to say.
Forward to finishing this quickly. We're not looking forward to sending a lot of arms. We're looking forward to getting the war finished so we can do other things.
Did you see that micro expression where he raises his eyebrows, which is an indication of surprise? He is shocked that this has been something that has been said. And he clearly, I wouldn't necessarily, I would say he disagrees with that because he's shocked that this is the stance that you're taking.
But we very much appreciate the agreement because we needed what they had, and we're treating, our country is now treated fairly. Biden didn't do that. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. This should have never happened. This should have never started. But, sure, the answer is yes, but hopefully we won't have to send much because I'm looking.
So now Trump goes on and has a bit of a monologue, really. So I'll move forward to when Zelensky comes back into the frame, because I think that's where it starts to get more important.
In speaking to France and in speaking to, and they were here, as you know, last week and just the other day, they have committed to a lot of security. I don't think you're going to need much security. I think once this deal gets done, it's over.
What Zelensky's hands, if you notice what I said at the beginning of this video, he starts like this and it's very relaxed. It's quite a relaxed pose. But as time goes on, he starts to work his hand more and more and more. And that's a demonstration of stress. It's a demonstration of discomfort. Whereas Trump, on the other hand, this is very much a power pose. It's very much I'm in control. Zelensky's clearly slipping. And I would say he's probably slipping because it looks as though he doesn't know what is going to be said at this press conference.
Russia's not going to want to go back, and nobody's going to want to go back.
President
When
Zelensky is
this
shaking
when
his
this
head.
deal ends,
Even a reporter highlights that Zelensky's shaking his head. You can see there's numerous micro expressions that are coming on Zelensky's face. So again, that furrowing of the brow. So where his brows are coming in and he's doing this, it clearly means that, and I'm not sure about that, but this also demonstrates it's always anger, it's frustration at this situation.
really believe this deal is going to be over.
Well,
Question. Yeah.
This is a really important point, and I think this is the point at which Zelensky really starts to become more and more frustrated, because Zelensky is just about to try to reply and the media just move past, and Trump allows that to happen.
Please go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you. You had
So currently Zelensky is trying to reply, but he's not being allowed by Trump. Trump isn't even acknowledging that he's not allowed Zelensky to do that, which may well be a power play. This could be political, could be intentional. I would say in terms of their demeanors, Trump, his expressions, he seems as though he's in control of everything that he's doing, whereas Zelensky, you can see, is in a difficult situation.
President Macron and Keir Starmer at the White House this past week, both of whom praised your courage and conviction to lead the pathway towards peace.
Yes.
Part of that involved, though, re-engaging Russia in diplomatic relations, something that previous leaders lacked the conviction to do so. What gave you the moral courage and conviction to step forward and lead that?
Well, I love this guy.
So I think Zelensky, as you saw from when the reporter was asking the question, you could see he was uncomfortable and frustrated with some of the things that were being said. And then what Trump does next, I think, is where Zelensky again becomes more frustrated.
Who are you with?
One American news, sir.
Well, that's well.
This face that he's got is almost total dejection. He's totally frustrated and almost locked within this interaction. I think he is clearly disengaged and disenfranchised.
I like him. One American News does a great job. That's very. I like the question. I think it's a very good.
So Trump has literally just said, "I like the question," and as Trump said, "I like the question," the space between the two people has increased. Zelensky has moved away from Trump, and then I think he does move back in. But as soon as that happened, he's moved away, which demonstrates distancing from what Trump is saying.
Question. It's a pathway to peace. It's a pathway to getting something solved. And I feel that as the head of this country, I have an obligation to do that. Plus, we're very much involved. We got involved.
Again, this raising of the eyebrows demonstrates surprise. So the widening of the eyes, the raising of the eyebrows, it's demonstrating that I'm not sure I agree with that.
Too bad we got involved, because there should have been no involvement, because there should have been no war. And there shouldn't have been October 7th. That would have never happened. As you know, Iran was broke. They had no money to give to Hezbollah. They had no money to give to Hamas. They were stone cold broke. And then under Biden, they became rich as hell. They went from no money to $300 billion in a period of 4 years. And they gave a lot of that money away, and you see what happened. And that's a real mess also that we hope to be able to solve. But
So that check back there to Zelensky is to try to keep him involved in the conversation, but Trump has moved away from talking about Ukraine. And as he's done that, I don't know whether Zelensky again feels a bit disenfranchised about this whole thing. And again, a really important point is that this isn't necessarily about political views or anything like that. What this is about is just Zelensky's feelings and his approach to this meeting.
No, I appreciate your question very much. I feel I have an obligation to try and do something to stop the death.
If I can answer. Yes, if I can answer. Sorry.
So at this point, I think Zelensky's had enough and wants to interject. And you can see him doing this, him being much more firm. Now, I think a really important factor to consider is this isn't Zelensky's first language. So he's working through a filter. You can see he's trying to interpret what is being said. I think at one point, and this is further on in the video, somebody comes in and translates for Zelensky just to give him a bit more information about what's being said. But you can see he's in his mind, he's got to a point where he feels like he needs to be more firm in his answering of his answering of any questioning.
Please.
But Trump allows him. You notice that Trump says, "Oh, go ahead." So Trump tries to keep control of that situation by just saying, "Oh yeah, you could answer," even though Zelensky is going to do it anyway.
And I do like your clothing, by the way.
Yeah, really?
Even though I think he's a great guy, by the way. But I don't know if you two like each other. But you know what? I think
I like this guy.
I think he's dressed beautiful.
So I
think this is an attempt by both of them to try to diffuse the situation. I think they can feel the tension.
have more serious things than answer on such questions. I will answer on more serious questions if I can. Yeah.
Yeah, so Zelensky there makes a clear point, and he points out that I haven't been allowed to do so.
So please, about security guarantees and about just ceasefire. We can't just speak about ceasefire and speak. It will not work. Just ceasefire will never work, because I'm like the president. I have this experience, and not only me. Ukraine before my presidency, from the 2014, Putin broken 25 times. 25 times he broken his own signature. 25 times he broken ceasefire.
But he never broke to me. He never broke.
No, you were the president. You were the president.
So neither of them are looking at one another at this point. They're not making eye contact. I don't know whether that's intentional from Zelensky, but at this point, Zelensky clearly is being very firm.
He never broke to me.
In 2016, you've been the president, Mr. President. You've been.
This signal, again, surprise, uncertainty, and disbelief. Because surprise, obviously, is one of the base emotions. And there's lots of things that come off that, lots of different emotions. And the surprise can signal disbelief in what somebody else is saying.
The president, but he had, of course, not with you, but he had during those periods.
So as he moves closer, it's a demonstration of he's clearly trying, whilst being firm in his response, he's trying to ensure that those ties, those political ties, are still close and they're cohesive. I think he is starting to be concerned about whether there's going to be some issues.
We had conversations with our side, and we had Normandy format, the France, Germany, Ukraine, and Russia, and he broken 25 times. That's why we will never accept just ceasefire. It will not work without security guarantees.
Watch Zelensky's hands as well. He's doing lots of this. When you see Trump talk, he's got his hands like this. Again, power. And he doesn't do much with them. He just he might gesture, but he comes back to this or this, and it's very slow. Whereas Zelensky is moving a little bit quicker. He's wringing his hands, clearly demonstrating he's uncomfortable in the situation.
Security guarantees, maybe President, is right about this document and other, but this document is not enough. Strong army is enough because his soldiers afraid, Putin's soldiers afraid of our soldiers when we're strong enough. If we are not strong enough, if we are empty, if our storage is empty, we can't defend our land. Today, he knows that we have all the world knows that we have meeting. Yes, why he's using ballistic? Putin today using ballistic on our hospitals, schools, and it says ballistic. So he knows that we are here and that President Trump is really have goodwill to stop this war. And you hear now the president. So why he's using? So he doesn't want to stop. He doesn't want. But I hope that we will do it. Really, we'll do it. Security. When we speak about security guarantees, when the Europeans are ready for contingents, they need USA backstop. If there will not be United States, we will not never have any contingents, strong contingents from the Europeans, because they don't want to divide alliance connection between the United States and the main and strongest ally and Europeans. And this is crucial. This is important. That's what we want to speak about very much. This is very important. And air defense. So air defense.
Again, he's using this gesture to signal what else are we going to do? So you can see he's really trying to highlight the issues that are there and what other options do we have? He's trying to demonstrate that they are being disarmed. Essentially, they're vulnerable.
Really, we have big deficit with all these systems, and we need to provide this. We need it very much. Otherwise, Putin will never stop. And will go further and further. He doesn't want. He hates us. It's not about me. He hates Ukrainians. He thinks that we are not a nation. He thinks, and he shared these thoughts. I think maybe with your team also. I don't know, but with all the Europeans, in media, officially and not, he always said that there is no such country, such nation, such language, and such life like Ukrainian.
I would argue that Trump actually does look like he's listening. So taking it in, he's I wouldn't say necessarily nodding, because I don't know whether he's trying not necessarily agree with what Zelensky's saying, because he says he's trying to play peacemaker. But Trump is clearly taking on board what is being said, and he is giving Zelensky an opportunity to speak.
No, he really doesn't respect all the Ukrainians, and he wants to destroy us. And you are right, Mr. President. That's 2%. This document, maybe other documents, it's a very good start, very good, but it will not enough to stop this person.
Should Russia pay to rebuild Ukraine?
Mr. President, after these
Should Russia pay to rebuild Ukraine?
They have to pay.
This question.
This is the rule. This is the rule of the war. This is the rule of the war. During all the centuries.
So Zelensky is starting to become more and more passionate about his approach. He's starting to become more outspoken. You can see he just starts talking over people. Now that I would argue that, as I said at the start, his approach to reporters is very different to his approach to Trump and his diplomats. He allows them to speak and doesn't want to interrupt them because he knows he's coming to them with an ask. Whereas when reporters are speaking, he's more happy to interject.
It's all the history. This is the rule of the war. Who began, those pay.
Do you agree
This
with
is
that?
the rule. Putin began this war. He has to pay all money for innovation. He has to pay. Of course, some Russian assets, what we have in Europe, about 300 billions, we can use them. We can use for innovation and buy military support from the United States also. We can do it, but it's not enough. It's not enough.
Again, he's starting to rub his thumb and rub his hands together, demonstrating that frustration that's building and that, where he's allowing himself to emotionally slip. I would still say, though, in everything that he's saying, it looks like a well-rehearsed and well-practiced point that he's trying to get across. It doesn't look like he's totally slipping in terms of how he's masking the emotions that he's feeling.
Under these circumstances, do you envision a trilateral summit with
Because I
Putin
want to
and
know.
President Zelensky?
Wait 1 second.
I asked this question that you didn't like because I wanted to know if you want to position yourself in the middle between Russia and
Yes.
Ukraine, or on the Ukraine side.
No, I'm in the middle. I want to solve this thing. I'm for both. I want to get it solved.
See Zelensky there. And now because I think he started to speak more, he started to become, as I was saying, more frustrated. It's boiling up a bit more now. That he started to be almost more outspoken in his responses when he's watching Trump speak. And this is what tells you what's going on in Zelensky's mind, not necessarily when he's speaking, but when he's listening to someone. Because when you're speaking, you know that people are watching you, whereas when you're not, you're much more likely to demonstrate how you actually feel on a matter.
And it's wonderful to speak badly about somebody else, but
So here you can see the frustration and anger on his face.
I want to get it solved. If we can solve it, great. If we can't solve it, they're going to have to fight it out, and who knows what's going to happen. But I want to see it get solved.
May I follow up? One more question about U.S. troops in Europe. After Russian invasion of Ukraine, your predecessor sent additional troops to Eastern Europe, including Poland, my country. Are you committed to keeping these troops on the eastern flank of NATO in the future?
I'm very committed to Poland. I think Poland has really stepped up and done a great job for NATO. They, as you know, they paid more than they had to. They are one of the finest groups of people I've ever known. I'm very committed to Poland.
What about Baltics?
Poland's in a tough neighborhood, you know.
What about the Baltics?
The Baltics, they got to let it. It's a tough neighborhood too.
So I would say is Trump, while I do want to focus on Zelensky, it's really good to compare the two, because Trump, you see how slow he is at talking. He's very slow to respond. He's considered, takes his time, and it's a much less passionate response than Zelensky's. But I think you see the demonstration of power because Trump is taking his time. He takes a breath between answering. He's calm, but he's allowed to be because he's in control of that room. You can see he's in control of that room because he's pointing to reporters and they're responding to him.
But we're committed. We're going to be very committed, and we're committed to NATO. But NATO has to step up, and the Europeans have to step up more than they have. And I want to see them equalize because they are in for far less than we're in, and they should be at least equal. You understand that? Why is the United States, we have an ocean in between. Why is the United States in for so much more money and other things as Europe? With that being said, and as you said, they've also been obviously very helpful, but we have put in far.
This is a strange sort of facial expression from Zelensky. I think he seems, I don't know, a little bit lost in the conversation again. I think when the conversation moves away from Ukraine, he's either frustrated or just completely switched off from the conversation. But what I would say is this is his second language. So he's also doing a lot of processing, trying to listen to what's being said.
More than they have. And I think they should equalize.
Mr. President,
See the head shake there. There was a micro head shake. And so clearly that demonstrates that he has a disagreement, disagrees with whatever's just been said, and that he's unhappy now. Now keep watching the hands.
Please, go ahead.
Ask you about the agreement again today. What changed between the first time that Secretary Bessent gave President Zelensky the agreement and today for the signing?
We made a deal. So
What was the
I'm just-
deciding factor?
I'm a business person. We made a deal. That's what changed. I didn't think we were going to make a deal.
Again, this Zelensky seems quite unsure. And I think there is a lot of uncertainty around here. And that's probably why all of this has been played out in front of the media, because his facial expressions demonstrate a bit of uncertainty with when it comes to the deal, when they're talking about the deal.
And we ended up making the deal. So that changed.
Mr. President, why and how do you envision a trilateral summit with President Zelensky and Putin?
I don't know,
under
but
these
well, they
circumstances?
don't like each other. I can tell you that. Okay? They do not like each other. This is not a love match. And it's unfortunate. That's why you're in this situation. The United States should not have allowed this to happen. Okay? The United
See, he's thinking about saying something, but then he doesn't. And I don't know whether he's worried about the trivialization of him and Putin being at war with one another, and him more being concerned about the country and how the country moves forward.
States, run by a man that didn't know much. I'm going to be very nice. Run by an incompetent person, very incompetent person, should never have allowed this to happen. I've stopped wars. I've stopped many wars. Like people will tell you, I stopped wars that nobody ever heard about. I stopped wars before they ever started. You can look at some of, I could give you a lot of nations that would tell you right now they were probably going to war. I could tell you right now there's a nation thinking about going to war.
It seems as though that's a knowing smile. He's either looking at someone who's, I don't know, saying, oh, Trump does this a lot. He talks about other things. Or he knows about what Trump's talking about and he knows that Trump has done it. It seems very much a knowing smile.
On something that nobody in this room has ever even heard about. Two smaller nations, but big, still big. And I think I've stopped it. But this should have never happened.
Mr. President?
Sorry, just a second.
Again, so taking control. He's not allowing the media to move on and move forward. And you can see how frustrated he is in his face. You can see this facial expression. It's almost how dare you? How dare you not allow me to speak?
About any negotiations. First of all, I want really to tell you, and I think that everybody understands that Ukraine, modern Ukrainians, nobody wants to stop this war. But at the future, any negotiations, it's understandable that two sides of the war, not Russia and the United States, because this is not the war between Russia and the United States. This is war of Russia against Ukraine and Ukrainian people. So these two sides will be at the will be at the negotiation table. Then of course United States, like the strongest partner of the Ukraine, and of course Europe. I think Europe is very important. I want to speak about it with the president. Yes, Europe is very important for us because we really defend Europe for today. All Europeans really recognize that we are defending line and they have real life and our people are dying. That's why they helped us. And also it's about the NATO. Yes, between, like the president said, you have big, nice ocean. Yes, between us. But if we will not stay, Russia will go further.
Notice Trump here, his eyes, or his eyebrows, should I say, start to raise, which is, he's almost demonstrating that he's surprised, and he's surprised that Zelensky's saying this.
To Baltics and to Poland, by the way. But first to the Baltics. It's understandable for them because they've been in the USSR, you know, they've been one of the republics of the USSR, and Putin wants to bring them back to his empire. It's a fact. And when he will go there, if we will not stay, you will fight your American soldiers. It doesn't matter, do you have ocean or not, your soldiers will fight.
Mr. President, would you be willing to visit Ukraine, maybe Kyiv or...
So Zelensky has just been cut off here. Also, a note on Trump's facial expression. It was quite bland. He's, again, very, very good at muting those emotions and not responding.
Odessa, which is going to be a 30-year-old Black Sea.
It was my question.
I see, again, Zelensky starting to really get frustrated now with the media.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to talk about Odessa now. Let's not talk about Odessa. I want to talk about making a deal, getting peace. We don't have to talk about...
So whilst we're all looking at Trump, Zelensky has just made this facial expression, which again signifies shock, surprise. And with this context, you can assume that it means, oh, okay, convenient for you to not talk about it in terms of the interpretation of the emotion that he's demonstrating.
About Odessa, but a lot of cities have been destroyed. A lot of cities that are not recognizable. There's not a building standing.
No.
And a lot of
You have to come,
things have
Mr.
to happen.
President, you have to come and to look. No. We have very good cities. Yes, a lot of things been destroyed, but mostly cities alive and people work and children go to school. Sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes closer to front line, children have to go to underground schools or online, but we live. Ukraine is fighting and Ukraine lives. This is very important. And maybe it's Putin is sharing this information that he destroyed us. No, he lost 700,000 people. 700.
Again, Trump not really giving anything back in terms of an emotional reaction. And you could argue this is related to his stance of trying to be the mediator, be in the middle, and not necessarily be overly swayed by either side's arguments.
100,000 soldiers, he lost everything. Yes. So,
Mr. President, one more. I wish to
Please, go ahead.
When did you last speak with President Putin, and what did he say that?
A couple of days ago.
And what did he tell you that gave you the assurance that he wanted peace?
Well, that's what I do. My whole life is deals. I know pretty good. And I've known him for a long time. I've dealt with him for a long time. He had to suffer through the Russia hoax. You know, Russia was a hoax. It was all Biden. It was nothing to do with him. So he had to suffer through that, and he was able to do that. I think that he wants to make a deal, and he'd like to see it end. That's all I do. That's what I do. My whole life, that's what I do is make deals. And I'm in the middle of a mess because this is a real mess. It's a very dangerous one. If this doesn't get solved now, it's not going to get solved for a long time. So I hope we're going to get it solved. In the back, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Prime Minister Starmer claimed repeatedly that his government believes in free speech and was not engaged in censorship. But his country's government arrests people.
So you see here, Zelensky's asking for someone to translate to understand, so he can understand better. And this demonstrates how heavy that processing is in terms of understanding different accents, positions in a room, different points of view. It's hard work processing all of this information. And so often, if you're doing that, much more likely that you're going to make a mistake when with the things that you're going to say.
For memes and thought crimes, and even more worrisome is pressuring American companies to censor Americans on his behalf. How can he be a reliable, trustworthy partner when he says things that are demonstrably false on such an important topic?
Well, we actually spoke to him about that yesterday. And
again, that's a knowing look from Zelensky. How are you going to answer that question?
We thought they took it very, very much too far. JD was very strong on it. So was I. So was Marco. And we've been speaking to him about it. Marco, would you like to say something about it?
We have concerns, obviously, with the conduct of theirs, particularly as it impacts Americans. And there's real concern that American speech, which is online, could fall into the hands of British or any country's jurisdiction. And so this is a point the Vice President made at Munich, and I think is a very compelling one, that what unites us with Europe, as much as anything else, is these shared values, and one of them being free speech. And so if Americans are threatened by it, we're going to need to take action in that regard.
Mr. President.
It's actually a very important question.
We spoke about this in detail with the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and others at lunch yesterday. And I know that Secretary of Commerce Lutnick followed up in private meetings last night. This is really important. We believe Americans have the right to speak their mind, even if we in this room disagree with them. They have the right to speak their mind in the public square, which is often online these days. And we're going to defend that right as it pertains to American companies and American citizens vigorously if we have to. I do think that under the president's leadership, we're going to find common ground with our friends in the UK on this question, but it remains to be seen. The principle that will guide us is we believe in free speech in this country and we'll fight for it for American citizens.
Mr. President, on the deal, is there another oil and gas component to the deal? Is it all
A little bit. We'll see.
on LNG?
But we're not really looking for that so much. We got a lot. We have more than anybody in the world by far. So no, we're not talking about it too much, but a little bit.
And Zelensky didn't seem too convinced by that point. The raise of the eyebrows.
I think it affects also, but for the most part, no.
And sir, is there any agreement from Ukraine to purchase U.S. LNG as part of the deal, or is that on the table at all?
No,
So
we,
Mr. President-
we don't need that.
Some of those
Mr. President, I
minerals
just
are
wanted
in
to
the
ask you
Mr.
about,
President.
you just mentioned that you'd spoken to Vladimir Putin a couple of days ago. Just to be clear, that's a new call, not the one that you
I've spoken to him on numerous occasions.
Okay. And how was the latest call? What did you discuss? How did it go?
Are you serious with that question?
I am. I'd love to know.
It went well.
You could see even the smile when he's asked a difficult question like that. He doesn't even get ruffled. He's just, he clearly feels like he's in total control of that room.
I think we're going to have a deal.
On the minerals deal, Mr. President, some of those minerals are in the east of Ukraine, not far from the front lines and in areas that Russia has occupied. Will you direct President Putin to withdraw his forces from those areas if there's U.S. interest?
Well,
there?
we'll take a look at the time. We have a lot of area. It's a very big area we're talking about. So we'll take a look. I'll study that and I'll see.
And who would protect those minerals if they are U.S. interests? Would that be Ukrainian
They'll be
forces?
protected. The
European
agreement will
forces,
protect them.
U.S.
The
forces?
agreement, yeah, we're signing an agreement. You know?
Right, but what if Russia tries to invade or there's Russian aggression in their spots?
I just told you, I don't think that's going to happen. And if that were going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal.
You can see Zelensky, again, a micro expression across the eyebrows. And also the head shake. He totally disagrees with what is being said. And he doesn't believe what is being said at all. And so this is the build to where the disagreement starts to happen.
If I thought that was going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal.
Some people may wonder why.
You know, they ought to focus on CNN on
Again, wringing his hands as well.
survival, not asking me these ridiculous questions. Focus on surviving because CNN's got such low ratings. I
think this is Zelensky actually trying to understand what's being said because he's finding it difficult.
they're going to survive. Let's go. Please go.
Now, this question is where it starts to get interesting. This is the point where it's a very difficult question being asked. And I don't think the Americans like it. And then so they then start to become a little bit more assertive in the way they respond. And I think that is where that's where the fireworks start to happen because Zelensky's been primed by feeling as though, he clearly feels as though he's not been listened to and not been taken seriously. And so these two sides then collide.
I already mentioned Poland. Poland was under Russian control for decades after the Second World War. When I was a kid, I looked at the United States not only as a most powerful country, richest country in the world, the country that has great music, great movies, great muscle cars, but also as a force for good. And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" It doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. That's very tough for me.
There you see surprise, and obviously that's going to start to build into something else, as we know.
Me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world.
Hands are moving a lot as well, clearly uncomfortable.
I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing.
Head tilt, eyebrow raise. Not sure about that.
Done. You want me to be tough? I can be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I will respond to this. So look.
And so this is where you see Vance. Vance is actually quite frustrated at the question.
For 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin. And then
And then as Zelensky comes back, this is where all this priming, this context, the pretext has built to them essentially having a massive back and forth in front of the media, which is obviously not how they want to conduct themselves.